Welcome to another episode of the Swords and Sports Podcast. One man sharing to read 52 fantasy books in 52 weeks and create 52 podcasts documenting the experience. I'm your host, Mike Mogues, and this week I'm joined by yet another Spiffbo finalist. This time, it's the man himself, Tim, not Tom Hardie. He's here to talk about his book, Hall of Bones. The interview is coming up right after some of these book details. It's the 50th week of the show. That means 50 books have been reviewed, 49 authors have been interviewed, and there's only 2 weeks left in the journey. I've got big guests coming on for the end of the year. I'll say it again, big guests! And I'll reveal one of them at the end of this show. As a quick self-promo, you can find this podcast on all your podcast listening platforms. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Audible, all of them. All of them that you don't even think are on. It's on there. And of course, the YouTube channel. Tim has some awesome visuals that really, they just pop on the YouTube. So I hope you guys check that out. The YouTube is, of course, Swords and Sports. Look at the social medias if you want to know what's going on the show. On Instagram, you can see the first minute of the show. And on Twitter, you can find out who's coming on for that week. So I encourage you to look at that. The handles are at Swords and Sports. Let's get into these book details because Tim is not a man who should be kept waiting, so we need to get to his interview. The book is Hall of Bones. The author is, of course, Tim Hardie. It is... I don't think I wrote it down. Oh, yeah, the series is The Brotherhood of the Eagle. This is book 1. It was published on November 25th, 2020. It is 421 pages, and it is a self-pub book that is a current finalist for the self-published fantasy blog-off. Year 7. Can you believe that? I've been doing this show since I was getting year 5 finalists on. Crazy. Let's put out the spoiler warning. This podcast contains spoilers for the following book, Hall of Bones by Tim Hardie. If you have not read the book yet, consider this your warning. One more time, this is the spoiler warning. Without further ado, Tim Hardie. It's another week of the Swords and Sports Podcast. I'm so excited because I'm joined by Spiffbo 7 finalist Tim Hardie. He's here to talk about his book, Hall of Bones. So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Yeah, cheers, Mike. Thanks for having me on it.
Super excited for this. I wanted to know, how is your mission to try every beer in the world going?
It's a struggle, if I'm honest. I think it probably, looking back at it now, it's probably an insurmountable challenge, but that doesn't stop us, does it? We try regardless.
No, and it shouldn't. What do you think some of the challenges of this specific thing are?
I think, well, it's simply you can't get to the end of it. It's a journey with no end. It's a journey into infinity, isn't it? Because new beer is being created. Beer that existed will cease to exist as businesses go in, coming in out of operation. So yeah, I mean, fundamentally, it's just one of those challenges. When you look back, you think, why did I do that? But I do know I did that. It's because I like beer.
Well, I would hope. Do some sort of log where you're keeping all the info on the new beers you're having?
Oh no, not that serious. But it's one of those pleasures, isn't it? You go into a pub, and you think to yourself, I've not had that before, and you have that, and the worst that can happen is that you don't like it. In which case, you have a different one. So for me, it's a kind of a win-win kind of scenario. There's lots of new experiences out there, definitely.
Right, and in the end, you're drinking, so it's a good thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can you share this story? I mean, I'm sure you get this a lot. Your name's Tim Hardie. There's a famous actor, Tom Hardie, and you once disappointed a bunch of people in a parking garage.
Yeah, I mean, you it doesn't sound that glamorous, does it, when you start sort of summarize it like that? But,
well, I think you look like him.
What's that, sorry?
I think you look like him.
All right. I don't think I do. But you're entitled to your opinion, Mike, at the end of the day, I suppose. It's not that interesting a story, but I think it's a name that often gets confused. So although there is definitely, it's different spelling, isn't it? Often when you're on the phone and things, people can mishear it quite easily. So that was kind of my scenario where they genuinely thought they were booking in the actor Tom Hardie for this take my car and put it into storage while we were on holiday. And you just get a sort of a little inkling of how the other half live when that happens to you in reverse, because everyone rushes out, they see it's me, and they just, right, okay, get your own luggage out the back of the car and in that van. There's no Mr. Hardie about it whatsoever at that point. So just a little insight there into the differences between the famous and the obscure, like myself.
I mean, if I'm not sure if you have kids, but you could name one of them Tom and then see how much benefits they get before they're met.
I could do that. Well, I could do that. I've got 2 daughters, so it would be a bit of a stretch anyway. But I'm not going to experiment on the children. That's not actually recommended.
Yeah, I don't agree. It's not the best parenting style, but you could learn something.
Good. In the interest of science and just messing with people, it's an option. But I'm going to shy away from that one, I'm afraid.
I have been following this mystery, and I'm hoping you could shed some light on it.
Okay.
Who is Karen Mccombe?
Who indeed?
This is not helping. I need the answer to this.
Well, that's interesting that you picked up on that, because I thought that little thread had disappeared and died a death, a few months ago. So yeah, I do know who Karen is, but I'm sworn to secrecy, so I'm afraid I can't tell you. But it is one of my reading guilty pleasures. What is it? The Curse of the Weir Haggis or something. I can't actually remember the title now. It's a bit bad.
It's what's Haggis McBrown's dirty dishy secret about?
Something like that. Anyway, well, we'll just add to the word of mystery. We don't know what the book, we don't know who the author is, we don't know what the title is either. So it's a complete mystery.
I need answers.
You can, so people say this, but actually, as soon as you give the answer, actually, then people might be disappointed, and B, the mystery's gone, hasn't it? We actually like mystery. We like sometimes not knowing. Karen is in that realm of mystery, and it's entirely down to Karen whether or not she chooses to reveal her true nature.
Is it you?
Okay, I will be definitive and say Karen is probably not me.
There, thank you. Oh, that cleared it up. Is the Wumbo still cool?
I don't think it is. No, I think it was. I was literally for 1 second. I was cool. Just for a nanosecond, I was riding that wave, and now it was flooding Twitter for about 24, 48 hours, and it's gone completely. There's none of it left now.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you get that momentary high where you're like, I'm in the conversation.
Yeah, I know, that was good. It felt good to be part. It felt good to actually be cool for once, because that's not really my natural space at all. But yeah, it's it's like, yeah, I'm part of it, and then it's like, okay, it's over. Don't hang on to it. That's the thing. You mustn't hang on to it when it stops being cool.
You gotta
You've
know.
got to drop it like a hot rock, haven't you? Otherwise, yeah, it's not good.
That's the ultimate mark.
Did she secret? That's the title of the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, everybody should go pick that up and then try to figure out the mystery along with me. And whoever does it, I will give nothing, but I'll be happy.
Yeah, the satisfaction of solving a mystery, that's reward enough, isn't it?
Yes, the reward will be the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you afraid of marshmallows?
Am I afraid of marshmallows? I suppose I'm not really afraid of them. It's more that they're just not pleasant on any level. I don't quite, the act of toasting a marshmallow over an open flame is satisfying, but everything that follows in terms of it's just massive disappointment, a burnt mouth or a burnt tongue, or it just goes everywhere, and it's just it's a nightmare. So again, I'm showing my age there a bit with some of the practicalities, but for me, marshmallows, no point.
What happens
on the show straight away?
Yeah, this is like taking an anti-vegan stance. What happened in your childhood that has scarred you from marshmallows?
I don't think it's not a childhood issue. It's me. I mean, I've been consistent in this. It's not like I've loved marshmallows, set myself on fire with them, and then was sworn off them for life. They've just never been for me the sugary snack that delivers. That's it. So yeah, it's purely a matter of taste.
Tim at a campfire in his youth, burns by a marshmallow, turns him into evil Tim. It's an origin story.
Yeah, okay, that's actually what happened, but I can't say. Yeah, again, my life is shrouded in mystery, and that's one of them, I'm afraid.
You don't have your mug that says it's too peopley out there today.
Sorry, I couldn't quite catch that one.
You don't I know you write in your hubbub of the center of your household. Do you have a mug? Where's your mug that says it's too peopley out there today?
Oh, I've not got it. I've only got a plain glass of water, I'm afraid. It's downstairs in the kitchen. But yeah, it is one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite mugs.
What does that mean?
It just means, I suppose, I'm always been somebody that's been quite comfortable in my own company. If I'm in, I quite like socializing and meeting people, but I don't feel bereft if that's not happening.
Right.
So if I'm on my own, I've done before. I've actually done sort of writing holidays, long weekends, things where I've gone away on my own and done that and really enjoyed that time. So it's for me, my own company is something I'm very, very comfortable with, and frankly, sometimes people are a bit annoying, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Oh my God. Yeah. Try being in New York City.
No, I don't think so.
Speaking of holidays, your true origin story is you were on a holiday in Cornwall and this kind of bolt from the blue moment. What happened on this holiday?
I suppose the simple story there is I realized my first book was crap. That was the honest revelation. So I'd been writing up until, I don't know, what would it have been? Probably into my 6th year of sort of trying to work out how on earth to write a novel. And I had, it's a bit like, I don't know, I probably, looking back, I kind of set off on like a mountaineering expedition without any of the kit, no gear, no idea kind of territory. And I kind of got to the point where I developed the stamina to write a novel. I just hadn't worked out how to assemble the bits so it's actually entertaining and enjoyable to read, which is obviously a fundamental part of it. So
it is part.
I think with a lot of writers, actually, we get very, very invested in that first novel, and we put we literally put everything into it. Your first is always the one you remember, but actually, it's not always your best. And in fact, probably by definition, if you're a writer, you will always improve as you write, and actually, your first, your second and third should be better than your first. So I think it was probably an important moment because it was my ability to sort of set it aside and say that's good learning experience, but it's not good enough. I need to put that in the trunk, stick it in the loft, never look at it again. And then that was when I thought, what do I do next? And then that idea, it literally just popped into my head. Like you say, it was sort of a bolt from the blue. I could do this, and we could structure it this way. And it just kind of probably about a quarter of the story kind of just unfolded just by the act, I think, of setting aside and saying, what do I do next? And then I was cracking on that and started got down structured it, got down the bare bones of it, and kind of like it only took me another 4 years to write. So,
I like the analogy you used in your post about writing success. You mentioned that like building the stamina without trying to write the book without the stamina is like climbing Everest in flip-flops and a pair of speedos.
Yeah, well, that pretty much was me at the beginning of my writing career. It's not a pleasant image for anybody to think about, really, is it?
I don't know if it's not a pleasant image. You don't know how the viewers feel. Is that possible?
To do that?
Yeah,
to climb Everest. Well, it like all things are possible, but it's not nice.
There you go. I like
just
this.
Put that out for anyone watching. We're not recommending that, are we? We're not suggesting that's a good way to spend your weekend.
I'm saying.
Well, Mike is doing that, and Tim Hardie definitely isn't. Just to be absolutely clear for all our viewers.
I'm saying if you try it, blame Tim if it doesn't work out.
No, that's totally unfair, and I really should remove that quote from that piece immediately. Looking back, it's just hostage to fortune. But yeah, I mean, you're right. You've got to prepare in reality for it. I think a lot of the writing is not easy, and I think anyone that thinks it's a breeze is just deluding themselves. And I did it to see if I could rather than anything else. And I thought, actually, this is much, much, much harder than I imagined it could possibly be. And I suppose I got a bit determined and a bit, a bit stubborn about seeing whether I could finish it. That's kind of the journey, really.
Did it ruin your trip when you were like, this sucks? Everything I've been working on for this long, I'm done.
No, it did me a favor. That was a good thing. It was a good thing.
Right.
So it kind of, I suppose, yes. What did I think about? I think I'd already mentally kind of checked it out. I just hadn't got the new project. And
Okay.
I suppose I was thinking, could I tinker with it? Could I not? But in reality, when you start thinking like that, really, you need to set that work aside. Basically, my heart wasn't in it. I thought, do I want to write a sequel to this? I don't think I do. I don't think the characters are good enough. I don't think the plot's good enough. So it was kind of actually it was more a moment of release, really.
This is swap out book with relationship, and that could have been anything.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of situations, unlike the mountaineering advice, that is terrible advice, and we must.
Excellent advice. Thank you, Tim, for that. As is tradition on this show, can I have that novel?
No, you can't.
No one has said yes to that question yet. My goal is to acquire someone's trunk novel and pass it off as my own.
Why would you?
Because I think whatever someone's worst is better than what I could do. So it'd be a net improvement on my own abilities.
Right. Yeah. No, you don't honestly pick somebody else. That somebody else's offcuts will be better than mine. Trust me.
Maybe the goal is I could get everybody's offcuts and make a Frankenstein that'll that'll somehow work.
Yeah. The unreadable novel, basically. That would be amazing.
I'm not having luck with this, but you got to keep asking or not and stop pissing people off. How has your sales pitch improved after a couple of mojitos?
Yeah, that's just remembering that night. Yes, okay. It's I think part of it is accepting you're a writer, actually, because originally I was writing, but I would never describe myself as a novelist or an author or a writer. It was a hobby, and it was the novel never saw the light of day. So I sort of showed it to a few people, and they said, actually they said it was quite good, but I didn't. I knew I could do better. I'm honest with you. So yeah, I suppose it's just becoming comfortable doing things like this. It's becoming comfortable talking about being a writer, because effectively to sort of do this, it's got to be treated a bit like a second career. That sounds a bit mercenary, but it's about saying, I do this, I'm professionally do this, but I also write, and I treat that very seriously as well. So yeah, getting comfortable saying, loads of people that I work with still don't know I do this, and this video probably will help puncture that professional bizarre image I've sort of constructed for myself. But it's sort of like after a few drinks, things loosen up, stuff comes up, and it becomes a natural part of the conversation. I've realized I've got to be comfortable having that conversation. I've literally sold books because, wow, you've written a book, I'll buy that because you've written it. Oh, that's quite easy. I need to tell more people I've written a book because they might buy it then. And that's actually,
that is good advice,
out, isn't it?
That is excellent advice. Do you feel like you're cheating on your mission in life, but every time you have a mojito instead of a beer?
No. I mean, beer is good, but I don't. I'm fairly open. I'm open to all ways of consuming alcohol, quite frankly. So
good. You gotta stay open-minded.
Yeah, meat's unusual for me. Definitely more beer, but beer and whiskey are probably the two ones that are you're right up at the top there.
You know what you should feel guilty about? Being a part of creating these writing playlists and not listening to music while you write. Can you tell me more about that project? That's a cool project. I'm just messing around.
Yeah, that's the Inkwell
yep,
isn't it? So cool. So a couple of authors, Adrian Walker and Emily Inkpen, and Emily's my contact. She's the person I sort of know. They kind of got this mad idea together and just said, hey, does anyone want to write, pull together some of their favorite tunes? And they're both very much writers who need music to kind of get into the zone of what they're writing. So Emily in particular, she's very into sort of soundtracks. My music is more about pop songs and sort of the 3-minute wonder type thing, whereas she likes a more longer piece of music, and they will use that to get into the zone and get into the mood. I cannot write to music at all. It really, really distracts me, and actually all I'm hearing is the music. There's no words coming out. So for me, I like to, you mentioned before where I write in the sort of the center of the house, I like to sort of write where there's a little bit of noise going on. Pre-COVID times, I'd often write in cafes, things like that. So a little bit of background noise is fine, but with music, it's sort of my brain homes in on it, and that's all there is. I'm basically hearing. But I know for other people, it's, you know, other writers, it's a really, really helpful tool, and quite good fun to do. So yeah, I think that for me the main thing was actually more the interaction with people like Emily, actually, and sort of finding out what they're into, what they like, and creating a tool other writers can use. So yeah, it's my I say my gift, it's our gift as a group. There's quite a few of us on this. It's sort of our gift to the writing community, I guess.
And it's an awesome gift. You know, I think it would have been hysterical if you just sent a playlist of blank songs, been like, "This is what I write to," and there's just silence.
This is Tim Hardie's perfect soundtrack. Yeah, there have to be some silent songs out there. But I'll include that as that's a great idea.
Man, I'm really on fire with these ideas. You're gonna be like, "What the hell did I get myself into after this?" Well, I know you're feeling like you're having some imposter syndrome until you get those magic mojitos in your system, but the people have spoken otherwise because you are a self-published fantasy blog off finalist.
I am, yeah. Wow. I don't. Well, yeah. Wow. That's still my current state of mind.
Incredible. Super exciting. How did it feel when you found out you made the finals?
Honestly, I didn't really believe it, because the way some of these blogs kind of get ahead, and they're sort of like they kind of do their stuff, you know. So Holly Tinsley, for example, who's written We Men of Ash and Shadow, I think she was like the first or the second author.
It literally happened like 1 week after she was on the show. I'm not saying that I caused that, but I'm also not saying I didn't.
I think, you know, you take credit wherever you can, and it's impossible to disprove otherwise, really. Yeah. But she kind of, like, you know, that was her. She was announced quite early on so she knew she was a semi-finalist pretty early. I think she was semi-finalist. You were interviewing her, and then she was a finalist very shortly afterwards, like you said. She had like a kind of a summer and into the autumn to get used to that. I was waiting for my review for until pretty much the last 5 days, I think it was.
Yeah.
That's not true. I got the review a bit earlier, but then it was months of waiting to know whether actually it was good enough for the semis. So I kind of knew that I might be in that group right at the end where the semi-finalist badge was possible. So I kind of got the semi-finalist, I think, on something like the 26th of October. And then within 4 days of having just absorbed that, they then announced the finalists. So I was just emotionally punch drunk from the entire experience. So yeah, it took quite a while for it to kind of become real, if I'm honest with you. Even now, it still feels, you know, it's hard enough to say, isn't it? You know, SPFBO, but it took a while for that to kind of like get, I think, okay, this has actually happened. And I'm on that. You know, for me, it became real when Mark Lawrence's blog went up with the picture of all the finalists.
Yeah, that's a cool feeling. Right. That's gotta be.
It's not a mistake. It really is on there. This has actually happened. So it feels amazing, but it's also quite. There's so much luck involved in this. You know, I don't treat this as like it was my right to get that book into that group of 10. Absolutely not. You know, there were probably, you know, I would say probably 40, 50 books that could easily have made it onto that final shortlist of 10. You know, the standard is insanely high, and so much of it is about that connection between the reviewer, obviously, and the book they pick up. You know, if somebody else had got, you know, if my book had been in another blogger, it might have not even semi-final, never mind, you know, got to the end. And I think that's the thing you've got to remember. It's a bit of a gift, this, actually, to get it. You know, it's, yes, all 10 books are good, and I do think my book is good. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm not saying it's definitely one of the top 10 in that entire competition that year. There's an element of luck, element of good fortune, and an element of being thankful, I guess, for all of that as well.
I am saying it for you. I'm saying it's good. It's worth it. Yeah, it's worthy of being there.
Fantastic. You're not just blagging this whole interview. You have actually read it.
I guess we'll find out by the questions how much I retained.
No.
But that it's super exciting. I know that one of the things that like past SPFBO finalists have said is there's a huge sense of community amongst the finalists. Like you guys are kind of in it together, not against each other.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's sort of like, you know, there's chat going on. You know, obviously we've made connection now. You know, I didn't know most of the finalists before. Right. So I mean, Holly and I, we have kind of connected earlier. But you're right. Actually, I think all of us are kind of in the same boat. You know, we know we're fortunate, but we also know that this is a really, really public contest as well. So, you know, with a lot of things, if you as an author, you've got to get used to asking for reviews, from fellow authors and bloggers and stuff like that. And sometimes sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. If they don't, you can sort of go, thanks very much. I won't broadcast that one on my sort of publicity and comms. With Spiffo, you can't really do that because you're on a grid. You will get that score, and everyone will see that score. So there's definitely an element of nervousness with all of the finalists, because obviously we kind of go with that. You're going on a high because you've top scored with your blogger who liked you, but there's no guarantee that the other 9 are going to think the same thing at all. And so that feels a little bit, terror is quite a unifying force. It turns out.
For people,
we are a bit of that.
I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do, because I know it's a super fun group. For people who want to know, and I don't know how much this gets mentioned, for people who want to know just how difficult this is, like Josiah Bancroft didn't even make the finals of his group, and he just signed a 6-figure book deal. So that's the level of talent in these pools.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm saying, you need to check out, those semi-finalists have got there for a reason. Those people that have got good reviews have got them because they've written a good book, and it's a huge showcase, isn't it? Really, every year they run this, and another year, Josiah, he would have been in the finals definitely. It's just, ultimately they've got to pick one, and that can be really, some of those groups are really seriously overpowered this year, and I would never want to be an SBIFBO judge ever, because having to make that choice I would not relish that at all.
No, I wouldn't either. So I think I'm ready to get on to the book questions. How you feeling?
I'm feeling interested to know how much of my book you've actually retained based on that intro. So let's find out.
I've been told not much by other people. As always, these questions are spoiler in nature. So if you haven't read the book yet, go buy it right now. Read it twice. Leave 7 reviews.
Yep, agree with all that.
Should they have kept the name Brotherhood of Shadow, because that name is badass?
No. That they shouldn't, because ultimately they are fighting a shadowy force, and that's why they changed the name. Now,
do you think the shadows would have been confused? They would have been like, but we're fighting the Brotherhood of us.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, which I hadn't thought through fully. I think they would have seen through it. I don't feel as though that strategy on its own will be enough to overwhelm, the forces of evil. But I do like the fact you're thinking outside the box.
And as soon as I think they're gonna think they're one of us, just stabbed immediately. Oh, well, I guess that didn't pan out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I need to come together with some material for book 4, so I'll hold that thought, but I probably won't use it.
Well, then you're definitely not going to use the novella idea I have to pitch later on.
Okay.
Not many have. Does eating humans really make you faster and stronger?
Oh, that's an interesting one. That might be too spoilery for the series, actually. But yeah, the speed of the Durath, the shadow spirits, is not necessarily the same. They're not connected necessarily to the eating of people and the sort of, I suppose, cannibalistic side. That's more about how they regard people, which is that people are simply cattle to them. So they've got and they derive certain power from what they do. So there's stuff that's going to come out in the series about why are these people quite so crazy, and why is that their hobby? There are reasons. There are reasons that I'm sort of developing in the series that will start to come to the fore later on.
Well, I know you did research on what a squirrel tastes like.
Yes.
What does a squirrel taste like?
Apparently, you're not going to like this answer. Apparently, it's a bit like chicken, but it's a bit more gamey, so a bit closer to rabbit, and it has a nutty flavour as well because they eat a lot of nuts. So it sounds
delicious.
Quite tasty. It does. It sounds great. So yeah, that's not in the novel series, by the way, but that is in my.
Yeah, that was a non-book related question, because I wanted to lead it into what does a human taste like.
Well, I don't know from personal experience. In fact, I've never eaten squirrel either. No, don't look at me like that. No, genuinely, I haven't. There's research, and then there's breaking the law and needing to be incarcerated, and that's we need to. it's a fine line, but we need to make sure we don't cross it.
What happens if you eat a vegan? Do you get less power?
Controversial.
Try to navigate that one.
I think I'll keep it simple and say no. It makes no difference, and all brands of humans are available for consumption.
I feel like it makes a little bit of a difference. Is it okay that I was a little disappointed that Aldricar, am I butchering that?
A little, Adalrica.
Adalricar. Wow, that sounds so much better. Adalricar was possessed and didn't kill his brothers and dad because he wanted to.
Well, I suppose if that's your reaction, that's kind of your reaction, I suppose, isn't it? That's the beauty of all of this. The reader's reaction is so unique every time. I think that's a bit of it's a mark of tragedy for me. That actually that was a loving family, was ultimately torn apart by something completely outside of their control, and that kind of flows into, all the associated sort of jarls and warriors that kind of from the Voron clan, that's ultimately ranging themselves against. Against their sort of neighbours and so on. They're all doing it. None of that would have happened if that sort of, if Adalrica hadn't become, the creature he ultimately became. So, I think there's an element of tragedy which kind of gives it a bit of gravitas.
I think the worst character you could be in one of your books is a family member of a main character.
Yeah, that's probably true. There is quite a high body count by the end. You're right.
Ulfridur, he has 3 keys to fighting. He came up with that purely based on the amount of fingers he had, right?
Pretty much.
If he had 4 fingers, he would have had 4. If he had 2, he would have had 2.
Yeah, it's a joke he's used before. That's it. When you're a 10-year-old boy listening to it, it's just amazing. So I just wanted that was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek kind of moment.
It's funny. I'll give you that. How many of the keys to life are come up with just for convenience?
So sorry, I missed that one. Do you think you broke up a little bit?
Oh, sorry. How many of these lists of things, ways to live and stuff, are just convenience?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that. There's just making it up as you go along, really. None of it is actually, none of these things are official, are they? A bit like the speedos and flip-flops example. That's not official mountaineering advice.
It's
just something
advice.
somebody's come up with.
This guy, Tri-Finger's eyes, they're really completely black.
They are, yes.
That is creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Has he debated color contacts?
No, he hasn't, because they don't exist in that world, sadly. So, and Frank, I think also he quite likes being menacing. So, if you've got that attribute, flaunt it. He's being put in a position where he's been asked to dominate another clan and rule by fear, really. So, he's not going to think, how do I look more friendly? That won't be his go-to question, will it? Really? So he's gone the other way.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, a guy with no pupils comes in and looks at me. Does he have? He has no pupils, right? It's just pure open eye. It's just black.
The way I envisage it, it's more just the coloration is all one color. So he does have normal eyes. They're simply discolored, and again, there's a reason for that, which again comes out later on in the series. Ooh. It's not explained in book 1, but again, that hasn't happened by accident.
It seems like I'm accidentally asking questions which are later addressed in later books. So the only good advice for this is everybody's got to pick up the next book.
Absolutely, I've got it right here, as a matter of fact.
So, let's see it.
Pick up that.
Man, that thing is a beautiful cover.
Yeah, I am really pleased with those, actually. I think I work with an American artist called Anne Zedwick.
All right.
So she's she's been really good. I would never have come up with that. That's the thing that's so much fun about sort of designing cover art and stuff like that. I could have, if I'd drawn it, it wouldn't be quite like that. It would have been a bearded bloke with horns kind of thing, and people everywhere would have said how derivative. But that kind of, she just came up with something totally different, and I quite like the fact it doesn't really look like anything else, which is pretty cool, actually. But yeah, I have to make clear as well, I am making this up as I go along. So sometimes as a writer, you sort of put up, you think, oh, right. So, Tiffinger's Eyes, for example. Okay, we'll do that. Why? Put that in the box of things to sort out later on. And it's really important to remember to do that, otherwise readers get annoyed. But so I'll probably tie that up in books 3 and 4.
I don't think you should answer any questions. Just,
Okay.
I like what this is. Well, answer them here, but otherwise we will be sitting in silence. Cole Finner, he was trying to kill his grandpa, right?
Was he? What makes you think that?
Maybe the guy was annoying. Maybe.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm mixing up my Colfinars. You mean the younger boy, don't you?
Yes. Well, maybe the older one too. Who knows?
Well, he was trying to kill him in a friendly way. It was only wooden swords,
but it worked.
That was pretty traumatic for the kid, actually. I'd do terrible things to people. I just, when you start having people reel bits of the plot back, you think, oh, what is wrong with me?
This one is dark.
Yeah, that was a pretty dark moment. They were playing together, and now his grandpa's dead. Yeah, that's okay. Well, that's what you get with the book, okay? So, I never said it's a cheery, holiday read. This is, dark fantasy at the end of the day.
Besides, like the opening chapter, it starts off cheery.
Yeah, well, I did that chapter deliberate the prologue. I did deliberately that way because I thought, you know what, and actually, my wife said, it's a real shame you wrote that first chapter. And I said, well, why is that? She said, well, a lot of people will read that. And I said, I don't want to go into that. Whereas the rest of the book's really good. But then it gets a bit difficult later. And so, well, if I don't signal it now that this is a dark story, a lot of people will get halfway through, as you know, there's quite a big turning point at the halfway point, and go, oh, that wasn't the book I expected. So, and I want also, by using that sort of first prologue, it changes how you read those subsequent chapters.
Definitely, because you're waiting for the shoe to drop.
Exactly. So Rothgar's in a dire situation in the prologue, which is literally only about a page long in the print version. And you kind of, you flip the page and he's into this sort of family environment. And like you say, a lot of people have picked up the kind of sense of family and the loyalties and the clans and all the rest of it. But there's this huge weight above the book, which is saying at some point, all of this is basically going to go to hell. And, you're always waiting for that. So it changes how you read those other chapters. And so that's it's a deliberate choice, really.
Yeah, let me tell you, even if you were expecting something bad, it's worse than what you're expecting.
Originally, it wasn't even meant to be that bad. I kind of, again, people, you write with a plan, but I also write allowing ideas, and actually the sort of Rothgar's fate became worse and worse and worse as it sort of progressed. And I don't think he was very happy about it.
No, I can't imagine he was. That scene had major Godfather vibes, and I like that. Why would Karras ever come out of his comatose to marry a 13-year-old when he was having the time of his life with the witches?
Well, he didn't want to, did he? So
that's
of course,
true.
the witches had had that way. That they would have kept him he would have been a piece off the board, and he wouldn't have been able to sort of come in. Basically, the Vorin clan is trying to conquer the individual clans, but if there's a way to neutralize a clan without going to war, you'll do that. And that's why the witches are in that situation, holding him in thrall. That's why, Rothgar kind of breaking that spell and making that possible. Actually, he wasn't really having the time of his life because he was enslaved to a bunch of nutters, wasn't he? So, it's...
well, that part stung.
That might have floated your boat, but no, I don't think it was good for Karras, put it that way.
I'm telling you, if you're going to take me off the board in some way that's out of my control, that's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Good to know.
I know we're joking around a little bit, but I do have one serious question. One of the goals of this podcast is to, highlight that fantasy has moved on from this kind of stereotypical, neckbeard red, male-driven, white, right, type of heroic guy slays the dragons and sleeps with all the women and views people as beneath him and stuff. What about your books either breaks that traditional view of fantasy, highlights fantasy that might hit different audiences that you wouldn't expect, or brings fantasy to the more general audience?
Yeah, it's a good question, that, because actually the way Hall of Bones is structured is actually structured around is a nod back to that world in a way of the male-dominated warrior culture, and I did that deliberately because I actually don't. I think especially with dark fantasy, you don't want to be writing in a utopia, and for me, I wanted a little bit of grit in the sort of mix. That whilst there's a lot of love and family, I suppose a family vibe to Hall of Bones, isn't there? There's also, I think, things in their society that are fundamentally, I don't agree with and aren't necessarily right. So for somebody like Hrothgar, who's kind of born into that as a male, taught to fight, taught to be the traditional male warrior, all this is working fine for him. Up until that halfway point, this fantastic society. Why would you not want to be part of it? And I did that because at the turning point where Roth becomes injured and crippled, he's actually then cast. He's no longer fits that society's expectation. And actually, the book isn't about the strong male warrior, like you say, slaying the dragon and bedding all the women and all the rest of it, because that's not him anymore. That might be what he thought he wanted to be, but he isn't that anymore. And actually, he's got to find his own path. And that one of the things about the book's sort of strapline is everything is going to change, or everything changes is going to change, and there's lots of turning points in here. And actually, there's a societal change going on within this series as well. So actually, Hrothgar being different, but actually then realizing that maybe their view of the world is very blinkered. It kind of holds up a mirror to their own society, and that's what I was trying to do with sort of Hrothgar's journey, really, in that first book. Whether I succeeded or not, I don't know. It's an interesting question, that, but for me, it's about trying to play with that trope and turn that into something a bit more thought provoking. So yeah, that's why effectively you've got a disabled protagonist at the end of the book.
That is an excellent point, and a great way to answer that question. I guess your book kind of answers it in and of itself. On a not serious note, if Brun Fourwinds was so good at navigating storms, how come he couldn't navigate the political storm that got his head cut off?
Because you can be a good sailor, but you can be absolutely crap when it comes to negotiating with crazy psychopaths like Tearfinger Black Eyes. I think that's what did for him. I don't think. Yeah, I feel sorry for Brun because he had a great name, but he just needed to die. So that was that's what happened.
I mean, characters are shooting like 50% if they're going to make it to the end of this thing.
Yeah, well, that's why the character list at the back of the book is so long, because half of them are dead by the end. So I do realize that there's quite a lot of characters there, but yeah,
it's like an obituary.
You don't want to cut to, you need enough of the core cast to survive for people to be invested, but there's got to be a sense of jeopardy. Some people, if everyone makes it, that's not really a tense book, is it? And I wanted people to be left guessing right till the end.
Does anyone make it? Is anyone making it through this thing?
Well, who are you attached to?
I was attached to a bunch of them.
No, that's good. Well, we'll keep them alive then. Fine, sure.
When
somebody actually dropped me a line and said, such and such a character, if anything happens to them, I'll be cross. That's the first time that's ever happened in terms of somebody kind of like liking the book and then getting in touch in that way. I thought, oh, that's not good. Yeah. So I'm sure as long as I keep them involved till book 4, it'll be fine. The readers will still be happy. But yeah, there's a sense that you can't mess with that too much. You kind of people love the characters, don't they? That's what they enjoy in a book. So you don't want to you've got to be selective in how you deal with that. And I found it quite hard at the halfway point, killing off quite so many people, because I'd become invested in them actually as well. So yeah, but I knew for the story they had to die. And I suppose that's the point. When it's relevant for the plot and it's needed, you've got to be quite ruthless as an author, because if you make it all nice and fluffy bunnies, that's not how the series started out. So people would be pretty cross by book 4 if it turns out actually everything was fine from about page 50 onwards. Again, that's not what people actually want, do they?
When Jolder says Anissa is just a friend, does he mean like Bismarck? He says, you say he's just a friend.
Well, she's more like his daughter.
Well, now we're getting weird.
Yeah. So yeah, It's a good question, but the answer puts you straight. So no, they got more of a sort of father-daughter kind of relationship. They're not related. He's kind of Yold is more of he takes in the waifs and strays of society. I mean, Bengal he takes in is actually a waif and a stray, even though he's like built
jacked.
Yeah, exactly. That is the word. But he's also entirely on his own. And I thought it was important for me that it wasn't just all about Reevesburg and they're the goodies and everybody else is off the scale. These stories are all about people, and the characters have tried to make them real. So yeah, Yold is more of he's kind of a convenient place for Etta to kind of send people she finds useful, but he's also got that kind of aspect to his personality where he likes to help out and feel useful, and therefore he often sort of ends up sheltering people in need of help. So that's more their relationship. But those two have then bonded in that kind of way and sort of stayed together, really.
It is sweet. It does bring me to my novella idea. This one's bad. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Normally I feel pretty confident about these.
This will be terrible. But go on. You'll have to say it now.
It's also pretty half-formed. Speaking of Yolder, I like that he's a bird. I like that he's a man. I like that he's half bird, half man in the dream world. And I like to figure out what else does he do like a bird in the dream world.
Sorry, do you have another question?
Yeah, we could no, that actually was the last that was less of a question, but I'll find something else to ask. Yeah, what does he eat in the dream world?
What does he eat? So I guess there's a level of prep to a novel in terms of what you need to know, and then other things that aren't really relevant. That's probably one of them. I mean, he's more the sort of he's more of a fever dream than an actual crow man. So it's kind of what he eats. He doesn't need to eat because he's in the dream world. He exists on a different plane of existence altogether, and those things they're incidental.
Well, if he's a half crow, he's a half man. Crows eat dead bodies, and in your world, eating dead bodies gets you super strong. So is he going around eating dream bodies and getting to be the strongest dream crow?
That is interesting, and of course he does peck at Hrothgar's face at one point as well, which I'm pretty sure in the dream memories that kind of comes to the.
Well, now he's got Hrothgar's power, which is quite diminished by the end, but.
Yeah, so I think there's a kind of in a way, he's an amalgamation of all of those ideas actually going on. That's sort of, I suppose, where the idea. He's partly Hrothgar's fears. Hrothgar's obviously got now a sort of a phobia of crows because I obviously made his life such a misery. So he's more like a projection, really. So he doesn't really exist as a crow, but he also uses that because Hrothgar's sort of sight skill is so powerful. He kind of shapes that world. So actually, what is actually Hrothgar shaping Yoldir into that kind of image, and that makes him, of course, then gives him a disguise when Nerith starts to sort of get involved in terms of that kind of battle. So you kind of got the battle going on in the real world, but then you've also got this sort of spirit dream world battle going on simultaneously. So, there's a serious answer to a quite ridiculous question, quite frankly.
So Yoldir, he doesn't know he's a half crow, half man?
No, he kind of knows that's what he looks like because he's kind of he's forcing himself into Hrothgar's world, and that's having an effect upon his appearance, you see. So in the kind of concept is in the dream world, you end up with you can kind of shape that reality like you can with a lucid dream. That's where the idea comes from. And it basically I suppose it means with people who can kind of do that have got a lot of power, and this is one of the reasons why Hrothgar's interesting, because he's able to actually shape that dream reality in the way that other people, you can see there may be people he looks out the eyes from in that sort of second half of the book when you get those other viewpoints. They use the sight and have sight powers that are very different to the way Hrothgar's able to use them.
At any point has he been like, hey man, I'm tired of being this half crow, half man. Can you make me half dragon man?
He needs to put in a request, doesn't he? Right. Just giving you that explanation. It's like, I'm a crow, so I could be anything. I'm actually, yeah. So
there we go. Now we're back on ridiculous answers.
Yeah. You brought it down to that level, haven't you? And I suppose probably if Hrothgar had enough therapy to get over his crow phobia and could control things more, that is an option. So
listen, you want You want a good client. He's a perfect one to pick up because that is the least of his concerns. I think that's everything I've got. Thank you so much for doing this. Where can people find you?
Where can people find me? I'm on Twitter. So Tim Hardie author on there. I'm on Facebook as well. So that's Tim Hardie author public at the end. So that's my main sort of Facebook account. And I've got a website as well, which, for consistency, I called timhardieauthor.co.uk. So you can find me in all those places.
And where can people buy the book?
At the moment, it's available on Amazon. I am actually looking at getting that released through the Broken Binding as well, which is an independent bookshop. But due to basically technological and formatting demands beyond my power currently, that's New Year's that's a New Year project. So currently, it's available on Amazon as ebook and paperback.
Super exciting. I wish you all the best of luck in Spiffbo. I'm sure that you're going to do amazing because this book is awesome. And I really appreciate this and can't wait to have you back on soon.
That's brilliant, Mike. Yeah, thanks very much for having me on. It's been great fun. I enjoyed it.
Tim was an awesome guest. He said it was his first video interview podcast. Or first video interview. They're not all podcasts. Whew, long day. And I think that he had the experience of someone who's done 100 because he was awesome. I'm really thankful that he took the time out. Let's get on to these books on the horizon. Next week is the return, I think it was exactly a year ago, of Big Bad Bengali. He's here to talk about his Spiffbo 7 finalist, The Forever King. And then after that is a huge surprise that I am not going to leak on this week, but I will drop it next week, so stay tuned. Keep on reading or something. Peace!